Okay, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kevin Kennedy, and today I'm introducing Clint, who's Director of Sales at Higher Logic. Clint is a sales veteran with over 10 years of experience and prides himself in taking a consultative selling approach and tailoring the right solution to each prospect. Clint received his bachelor's degree from history from Eastern Illinois University and actually taught high school for 2 years. He believes his background in education not only helps him with his sales approach, but also coaching his sales team. So with that, Clint,
Hey, Kevin. Thanks a lot. Can quick sound check? You can hear me okay?
sound perfect.
Perfect. So yeah, thanks. I want to thank the folks at the Alliance for having us. As Kevin mentioned, my name's Clint. I'm a director of sales over here at Higher Logic, and today I want to discuss a little bit about what the community solution and software we offer does. But I do think sometimes the functionality and the technical elements of it can get lost in sort of what the end result of that is. And that's really to generate growth in the organization, allow you to achieve any initiatives that you're looking to achieve. And the software is sort of a means to an end. And I think sometimes we lose the end goal in sight. And I want to walk through sort of how some of the strategies that we deploy with some of our clients, and then also what the empirical return of that would look like if deployed correctly. And I have a couple examples that we'll share here as well. So we can just kind of go ahead and get started here. So as Kevin mentioned, my name's Clint, Director of Sales at the Higher Logic. And so, I don't know for the folks on the phone, I don't know what their previous knowledge of a community is, if they currently are using one for their members or they've toyed with the idea if this is a first introduction. There are some just general misconceptions I did want to get out of the way, especially when we work with the smaller organizations. So I run, I guess I should say, I run our what we call small organization team over here. So we only speak with smaller organizations who have sort of their own inherent limitations and challenges. And I think there's a misconception sometimes that this can get in the way of the value of a community can provide. And some of the things that we hear a lot are we're too small, our members won't participate, we don't have the time to run it, it's too expensive, it's not we can't justify the cost, or we're already using a forum. And we have examples across the board of clients in each space where those are just, again, objectively not true. We have many organizations who are, all volunteer based and have adopted our community. If deployed correctly, your members will use this, and we've seen it time and time again, regardless of the size of the organization. We don't have the time. Certainly, bandwidth and staff sizes are some limitations that organizations in this space face. We can help you automate things. There's best practices that sort of streamline. But where there's a will, there's a way is kind of what we find. And our technology is built to help you overcome some of those inherent challenges. It's too expensive. We have a variety of options as far as pricing, potentially, that can accommodate all sizes, from very large organizations to very small organizations. I think sometimes there's that misconception out there that we're just this sort of luxury Cadillac solution only meant for large organizations, which again is just not true. And then I think there is this sometimes we're already using a forum, quote unquote. I don't want to confuse what we do with an online forum. We have an online forum. It is a very valuable part of our solution, but we offer a community. And there's a lot of nuance and detail that go into that aside from just using a forum. So I think, again, there's that misconception sometimes out there that, oh, we're already using this forum. So just want to kind of get some of those out of the way, that this is a natural fit for some of our smaller organizations. In fact, we have a whole team dedicated to presenting this option to them, and that's what I wanted to discuss here today. So kind of getting into it, we're on a lot of calls, right? And we hear, I want more engagement. And there's a general understanding and acceptance that engagement's a good thing. But I don't know what that means. Let's say you had more engagement and less people renewed, less members showed up your events, less folks, new members you acquired. Now, obviously that's not the case, but engagement is meant to yield something, right? Whatever that is. And for a variety of organizations, it can mean something different. So we really want to help sort of quantify that, help you achieve that engagement or yield that engagement, and then also show you if you achieve it, what will that return be? And that's where the, sort of the ROI comes in. So when we looked at it, we really try to focus in on those areas where most organizations, frankly, drive revenue. So, and when we help with growth, growth is a combination of new member acquisition, current member retention, and non-dues revenue improvements. So if you have a great year of acquiring new members, but you lose the equal amount, then yeah, you did a great job of recruitment and acquisition, but those folks that were already current members were not necessarily happy and they left. So you need to balance those out. And the community, and through a variety of efforts, can help with all efforts that typically drive revenue for an organization. And today, I'm going to focus on specific strategies around retention, acquisition, event and conference attendance, learning participation, and then sponsorship and advertising opportunities. All things you can do within our community to help you improve those areas. And then at the end, we're going to actually balance that out and show what the return of that would look like if done correctly. So, so the first one we're going to start with is the retention. All right. You offer a community that leads to engagement. That's a good thing. And I simplifying it intentionally because the more your members engage, good things happen. One of them being higher retention. And I have a couple examples here, and I'll show some live examples here in a second. But really, the community is an easy way to facilitate and deliver content, conversations, resources, be sort of that central location for your members to go to engage with their peers, download resources, find any information they need that they can't anywhere else. And by offering this to them, you are now the source of their professional development, or maybe you're a trade organization for, maybe it's legislation, or whatever it is your members care about. This is the central location for that. And if they leave the organization, they will no longer have this ability to, or access to this community, which they do value so much. Again, whatever industry, respective industry that they're in. So we want to, frankly, create an experience, an environment where they can't leave. If they leave, it stings their professional growth. They lose out on information and resources that they couldn't get anywhere else. And the community is the way to facilitate and foster that. So by doing that and doing it correctly, it does lead to higher retention. And again, I'll show some specific examples here in a second. You can use this to acquire new members, keep content open. Actually, I'll show some strategies there as well. You can actually keep the content open generated by your members to generate new traffic, which can lead to more acquisition, which also drives the ad and sponsorship value of your pages up as well. And the beauty of this is you're using your members' engagement, right? They're the ones creating that marketing collateral. They're the ones having those conversations that are then being indexed and searchable in Google. And actually, I have a whole another slide on creative win-back campaigns, which is a whole nother acquisition as well. So, use this as a way to create creative win-back campaigns to maybe target folks that have left the organization. Create that sense, that fear of missing out. Hey, it's sorry you left. We actually just launched this community. Look at what your peers are talking about. Send them a screenshot, right? Create a marketing campaign. So not only can you acquire new members that maybe have never heard of the organization, who have never been a member in the past, you can also use this as a way to do sort of compelling win-back campaigns to former members as now a new offering, a new way to offer something that they can't get anywhere else, and also give them a reason to come back to the organization. Increase conference attendance and event attendance. Obviously, that's a large part of most organizations' revenue and their sort of their annual operations. So have specific communities for your conference and events. Use this to facilitate better event topics. Get members excited for the upcoming event. And then in turn, you can actually run qualified member registrant campaigns based on this engagement that's going on in the community. And again, I'm going to show you examples of everything here in a second. But but it is crucial and important to have a dedicated event or conference community where you can ascertain information, folks can discuss things going on about the upcoming event, and you can start to procure good information to make better and intelligent ideas and topics for that upcoming event because you're listening to your members. But then you can also target those folks who maybe haven't registered but might be participating to increase that registration. And again, I have an example here coming up. Grow learning participation. So a community is a great way to foster and enrich a learning environment, create communities around courses, have different discussions around different continuing education or learning elements. Use this as a way to store all the resources for your learning elements that those folks who need to participate in any type of CE credits or learning has to go to the community to access those resources. Have a designated learning spot that facilitates and enriches learning. It's going to increase the participation. You can then reward your members based on their participation in the community. If they passed a course or they earned a certain credit, you can actually reward that automatically to increase further member participation in those learning elements, which can often be a large revenue driver for the organization. And then you can use this as a way to advertise and sponsor. Now this can be somewhat and sometimes sort of a hot button. Some folks don't want to deploy ads to their members. That's fine. You do not have to do that. If you feel the community is a space that they should be free from any external advertisement or sponsorship, absolutely, no problem. Other clients of ours use this as a way to generate an incredible amount of advertising revenue and sponsorship revenue as well. You can create sponsor pages. You could use the community as a way, look, this is where the most qualified members of our organizations go to participate. They're our best members. The sponsorship value of this location is extremely high to you. So you need to sponsor a page in the community, and it can generate a significant amount of revenue as well. And I know there are other areas, whether it's dues revenue or non-dues revenue in most organizations, but these are the 4 or 5 we're going to focus on today because those are sort of the ubiquitous ones among most organizations that we speak with. And then finally, by deploying all these efforts correctly, we don't want to just say, hey, engagement's good. See, all this activity is working. We want to measure it. We want to see what the ROI of that would be. So small improvements can make a huge difference. When you can also create a compounding effect, which sort of has this exponential return on your investment. And then when we're talking about ROI, and it is a big focus of this demonstration here today, I don't want to discount or forget about sort of the implicit value of what we do, right? If you didn't measure this, although we encourage you to do it, we do still know that the implicit value, that engagement's a good thing, that your members will derive value from the community, even if you can't measure it, right? Engagement is good. Folks do retain. They do attend more conferences the more they're engaged. But we do want to measure it, but I don't want to discount that implied value of, by offering this community, it's a value add to our organization. And that's something that we should be doing for our members anyways, even if we can't measure it. It's just a value that we need to provide. However, we do want to measure it at the same time. And that's what we'll discuss here after we show a few examples. So what I'm going to do now is actually share a couple real client examples that we have. And you should be looking right now, it's the Coin Laundry Association. And this is a smaller client of ours. Well, at least when they started, they had about 3,000 members. They've been with us 2 or 3 years now. And they use some specific strategies. They actually keep a lot of their content open. And you can see how very active this community is. There's dozens of conversations daily around things related to coin laundry operations. Specifically, things very, very relevant to that industry. Now, if I'm a member of this association and I'm going here as a resource to find information, to look at different library documentations, to read different discussions, to engage in my peers, I can't leave this organization. If I use this drum dryer and it's not spinning correctly, where else can I go to get this information? Certainly, maybe you could try a Google search, but these are my peers experience the same problems that I'm facing or the same issues. I can't leave this organization. So this in turn drives up your retention. Now there's a certain strategy that you need to take to facilitate participation. Just by launching a forum, as I mentioned earlier, doesn't facilitate engagement. There's certain seed questions. There's a certain strategy you have to implement and that's a whole nother conversation, which I'm happy to have, to make sure you are yielding this engagement, facilitating it. Because then once you do, those folks can't leave. And you can see numerous examples here. Here's another example of, this is a Master Brewers Association. So these are all folks, and you will notice the different in the look and feel. You can design your community to any way that you want. This is the same platform. And you can see here, these are individuals talking about different ways to puree fruit in your beer, different oxidization levels and oxygen levels of what you need to have in your brew. So again, it's a very specific and detailed space that those folks can go and engage in with their peers where they can't get anywhere else. This in turn leads to high participation, high engagement. You can also use this to tease the content to procure new members, or potentially as a win-back campaign for the organization for folks who might have left. So that's sort of the retention side. We can go deeper into the specific elements of that, but I do want to move on because I want to show a couple other examples here. When we talk about member acquisition and new member participation, this is a very specific example of a client of ours in which you can see here, it's the Air Conditioning Contractors Association. And they had a conversation about which software is the best for our industry, ServiceTitan or WinTech. So when I Google WinTech versus ServiceTitan, you'll notice that this is not the title of this community, but if I'm in an air conditioning contractor or in a service industry and I'm evaluating these two technologies, let's say I've never heard of this organization. Well, you can see right here, this is indexed on the first page. It is the actual conversation that we were just looking at. So not only are my current members getting value out of this conversation, it's actually being indexed because they choose to keep this content open, which is a strategy you can or may not deploy. It's completely up to you. They choose to do it as a strategy to drive new traffic. And by doing that, they see significant amount of traffic via the community and using this as a way to drive new members. Now, if I start to engage in this conversation and reply, it then prompts me to become a member. Perhaps I've never heard of this organization, but I was doing some type of similar research. Another good example I like to show here is a client of ours in the educational space. It's the Theater Association of Educators in Theater. And you'll see here female-heavy musicals, musicals that feature females, or musicals that have a lot of women. All of those are three completely and unique different searches. You'll notice that our community is, I think it's the first through third hit organically on a Google search, because they're using it in a similar fashion. It's the same discussion, content being created by your members. And you can see here, they actually have an advertisement here. And since it's open, this ad space is more valuable because folks like me, who's not a member, is now being targeted with this ad. But you can also drive new member acquisition that way as well by keeping the content open. We talk about our conference and events. We actually adopt one of our own best practices. We have our super forum coming up here in November. It's a big ticket item for us, just as it is as most organizations. And what we like to do is launch a whole community around our event coming up. And most of our clients do something similar. I obviously have access to our community, and it's good for demonstration purposes. So you can see this was actually just posted the other day, and I think someone replied yesterday and today as well. It's first-time attendees. This is Lori. She's super excited. There's some other folks that are first-timers as well. They're just getting excited about it. Now, maybe a lot of folks aren't participating, but they're reading this. You can see this community has 342 different members. They might be reading this. This might be getting them excited. Others are excited, right? I'm going to follow their lead. We also have another discussion in this same Superform community around best tips for attending. This has been a very active one. You can see here folks are telling, these are folks who went in the past, telling someone what they're excited about. I'm quite excited. I hope folks post good tips. Someone posted, I think right here, the best thing I did last year was the one-on-one consultation sessions. So we know as a company, we need to do more one-on-one consultation sessions, perhaps. Again, folks might be participating. We're getting great information here. Other folks might just be reading this and getting excited about it. And we're going to increase our conference. We've increased our conference attendance every year since we've been doing this. We have numbers to back this up. So this is sort of the operational deployment. One strategy that I would certainly recommend is you'll notice that we have 342 members who've actually joined this proactively, looking to see what's going on with our super forum. Not all of these folks have signed up, these 342. What I can do and what we will do is we'll take that list, we'll segment it, which one of those folks haven't signed up. Let's say 200 of those 342 have not signed up. We can actually create our own event campaign to those 200 unique members. We know that they're excited because they proactively joined this community, but that for whatever reason they haven't signed up. It's a very highly qualified, highly targeted, highly segmented list of members that when we run a campaign to those folks, we will have a very high conversion rate because we know they're interested. We're using the community to procure very good data. So that's going to increase our event attendance, not only offering this discussion and in facilitating this discussion, but using the engagement and the data to then further select and target those folks who we want to attend. And we know that they're interested. Talked a little bit about learning. This is a very, very good best practice we recommend. Offer community around a study group or learning elements. You can see this is the resource hub for everything that has to do with learning. You can come in here, you can look at different quiz information, you can look at all the discussions around learning. In fact, this was one that was started, I found for a while back, and this is very active. It was actually started in 2011. I think the most recent conversation or post was today. So it's been going on forever. But it's basically talking about the essay part of this exam. But folks know that this is their hub. This is their central location to, okay, where do I get information about this upcoming continuing education credit? Where can I find a study guide? Where can I ask questions about it to my peers? This is the community where you can do that. And by offering this, you're going to have more learning participation. You're going to have a higher and better enriched and learning environment, which leads to more participation, et cetera. Then, in turn, you can start to reward your members. And again, going back to our community, because I can show some examples because I have full access, you can create different profile badges and ribbons under the activity that they've created. Higher Logic, and we have ours called Higher Logic Academy. That's our learning. And when someone completes our Higher Logic Academy, we actually reward them with a ribbon right here, automatically. And it's a great way to continue to reward your members for the behaviors that they take. And same thing with Superform that we have coming up. And once someone registers, they automatically get this ribbon on their profile. And I would recommend the same for you as well. It's a great way to sort of gamify and encourage your members to continue to attend. I got to believe that Jess here, a client of ours, is going to attend next year because she does. Maybe one reason is she wants to continue getting her badge or ribbon for 2019 as well. So it's going to increase our event registration. And then finally, using it as a way to create sponsorship opportunities. Here's an example this is actually a trade org of ours, client who's a trade organization who has multiple sponsorships, and they can sell this space based on the type of folks that are going into the community. And then also advertisements on the right rail here as well. Getting back to the coin laundry example, you can see here they offer advertisements in the community, and we can help facilitate that as well if you choose that that's the direction you want to go down. So I know that was quick. It was, and there's a lot of, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of nuance that goes into each one. But by deploying the strategies correctly, you will see significant increases in those areas that drive revenue for the organization. And then finally, getting to the end of it here, we do want to quantify it. And I know this might be a little busy, and I'm happy to do a one-on-one ROI with everyone on here. But I took an example of a smaller organization we work with. They're a little over $1 million in revenue, and you can see where their revenue comes from right up here, from those areas we just discussed. And this organization has 4,000 members, and they have an 80% retention rate. So this means on average they lose about 800 members a year, and for the sake of this exercise, let's say they're flat. They gain 800 members a year. So as we go on, you can see here that they generate $360,000 in dues revenue. So per member, that's roughly $90 per member. So roughly $100 per conference per member, $60 per learning, $24 per publications. So per member, that's what their average dues are. So that's without a community. And then what we have up here is, okay, if we were to improve certain areas. So if we were to improve member retention 5%, our average is around 7 to 8. So I'm trying to be a little modest. And that's a 5% improvement, not a 5-point jump. So 5% improvement of 80 is 84. If we were to increase member acquisition of our available members, let's say there's 12,000 available members, 0.3%. So we go from 800 and we can generate 0.3% of this to 836. Can we increase conference attendance 3% by targeting the right members, by having a community that gets people excited, by, again, some of the strategies? Can we increase learning participation by giving those folks a hub to access those documents, to engage with their peers about different learning elements? We didn't talk a lot about publications. We can, but can we use this to increase our publications? And then can we generate a little bit of sponsorship and a little bit of ad revenue per year? And when you start to input those numbers into the formula, that's what you have down here without community, or excuse me, with community. Everything goes up a little bit. And then what we'll do is we'll look down here, and over the course of 4 years, which is not uncommon in average, the growth of this organization is about 50%. So you can see what those numbers look like if you deploy the strategies correctly. If you were to get a 1% member retention, it'll go down, and you can actually see what that does to your ROI. And these are just generic costs. We have solutions that are more, we have solutions that are less than what you see here. I just wanted to put some higher logic cost into this so you can get an idea of what the ROI of your community would look like. And again, you can put any elements in here. We like to be extremely modest so we can zero things out. If we don't improve in this area, but we improve this area, you can sort of play with the formulas based on the information that we get. And the nice thing is all of this is public information in your public 990 tax. So we pull right from your tax documents and see, okay, this is what your member dues are now. How can we help increase that over the course of any given period? So I know that was a lot to throw at you. And again, anyone who wants to reach out to the Alliance or directly to us, we're more than happy to help do one-on-one presentations to facilitate what this might look like specifically for your organization. This was a generic example. So I'll also share my information here. So if you want to write this down, you can reach out to me individually. Losing my mouse here. Whoops. I lost my mouse. Sorry about that.
Clint, we can send everyone your contact information. Okay, there it is.
There we go. So, all right. Okay, we should be good now. Yep. So feel free to take my information down, reach out to me, or reach out to the Alliance as well. And so yeah, I don't know if there's any questions, but I appreciate everyone's time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
We do have a few questions. One through the chat window here from Sarah. Sarah asks, for small associations trying to determine if a closed Facebook group would be sufficient, what are the key benefits of a service like yours over Facebook where members may already be accustomed to visiting?
No, it's a great question. I'd be lying if I would say that's not something that comes up a lot, and that sometimes folks simply use as their community, and it is, for lack of a better word, a competitor of ours. I think the biggest and most evident answer would be that you don't own that. Facebook controls the look and feel, the navigation. You don't own the data that in that conversation that goes on in there. And I think they might have some small moderation that you can do, but you really can't control. You're to the mercy of Facebook. And also, if you think about how Facebook monetizes and generates revenue, it's through engagement, it's through participation, and then they are an ad generating tool. So essentially, they're using that engagement that your members are doing in Facebook to then have more data to highly target advertisements to them. That's their model. I don't disagree with it necessarily. We can even do something similar in a smaller way to us, but that's not how we monetize, or how you can really even monetize the community. It's just sort of an afterthought or an option. But yeah, the integration and the data is Facebook's, and you're kind of limited with what you can do with it. You can't necessarily, okay, which of these 200 members in this community have not signed up for my conference, and then how do I target those folks with a very highly selected marketing messaging? You just don't have the ability to do that. And then there's just the tech integrations with whatever databases you might be using. We actually integrate with most of them. So all the setups native, we can send information back to your database or whatever AMS to make all of this sort of streamlined and easy. But the easy answer would be Facebook has control over everything and you're at their mercy. But it is obviously cost effective and can facilitate some of the similar type of conversation.
Okay, that's great. Another question here from Michelle. Let's see, do you have any small associations who use your product successfully for a document sharing library?
We do, actually. We have some clients who only use us for a resource document sharing. And what you can do is you can highly segment who has access to what. So let's say you have 10 committees, a board, and some special interest groups. Well, if I'm on 2 committees in the board, when I log in, I only have access to the resource documents for those 2 committees in the board, or vice versa. So you can, and that again, getting back to the Facebook question too, that's just something you simply can't do with Facebook. You can't segment who has access to what within reason. We can get extremely granular and say, I only want these 5 individuals to have access because it's a small committee and they have their own resource. You can also have a completely open library for the entire organization that's easily searchable. But based on who their member types, you can be highly segmented with what they have access to, or you could be completely open, or some combination of both. So the answer is absolutely, and it's actually a very common practice.
Great. Okay, one by email here, getting back to the ROI calculations that we were looking at earlier. Are you aware of any average percentage increase an association might see for an ROI using your system?
So we do see, we do with retention rate. The average client of ours comes in with roughly an 80% retention, depending on the industry, but that's just a rough average. And what we've seen from we do a benchmarking report with a third party that partners with us. And we've seen on average about a 6 to 7% increase in member retention. Now the other elements, the improved event attendance, the improved learning participation, That's a little bit hard to measure because you have to kind of dig a little bit deeper. We can certainly do it, but we don't have any sort of hard numbers on that. But to keep it simple though, if you have more members and your event participation stays the same, well, you're still growing in event participation because you have now more members to attend, right? Let's say 10% is a flat event number of participation, and you have more members, that 10% is going to be higher. But what we want to do is we want to grow your membership and then get a 12%. So now you have that compounding effect that can be created. And we can look at those numbers from year in and year out, but we would have to call our clients and have them sort of run, what was your event attendance revenue last year? What was it this year? And it's just a big undertaking we haven't taken on, where we have done that with the retention element of it.
Okay, and then I have a question just from the SALA perspective, and the perceptions of Higher Logic. So, for me, I always felt Higher Logic was a high-end platform that was only available to, let's just say organizations with a rich budget. But your engagement with SALA tells me that you're interested in the smaller associations as well. Can you tell us a little bit about your product offering for the small association market?
Yeah, and the nice thing is, well, I'll even take it a step back. So about 18 months ago, we realized that there was a huge opportunity, and we sort of organically fell into this. And you'd be right. Our start was with larger organizations. And what we've found organically throughout the years is, and we weren't really putting a lot of marketing effort into the smaller organizations, but they were starting to adopt sort of one-off. And sometimes it was out of their budget, but they found value in the adoption. And about 2 years ago, we were like, well, this is a space that we haven't really went after, and there is a lot of opportunity. So that was sort of the impetus behind this push in this direction. It's been going on for, like I said, almost 2 years now. And we've developed solutions and offerings around that market because we know we need to be more accommodating than maybe what we have in the past, because what we have found is once they do adopt, their members do use it. They're very highly active. Per member, and we have I should have included the slide, but per member, it's like 40% more active than an organization that might be 15 million and over, because they are smaller, right? They feel more of a kinship to their peers, and they're active per member because that's what they're getting for their membership. It's intimate, right? So we kind of stumbled upon that accidentally, and then we're like, oh wow, there's a huge opportunity here. These folks are very successful. And we started to align our solutions, our product offerings, some of the modules we've built to that market. With that said, the core offering we have is the same core offering that any $100 million organization will get. We just price it accordingly based on annual revenue. So you're not getting any limited functionality. You might not use all of it, which is fine, just whatever, for bandwidth or just the internal resources. But we can focus and prioritize what's been impactful for our organizations. About 30% of our business makes up what we call small org now, which is significant, especially where we were over the last 2 years. So we have all these best practices, these strategies to help with it, with the deployment of it. And then we do actually just launched a lower priced solution that does have some limited functionality about 3 months ago. That doesn't include everything, but it is a little bit of a lower cost. So I guess the short answer is we're designing our product and our pricing to align with this space to be accommodating on both fronts. If you need more technology, we have a lower priced option that gives you all the same that a large organization. It's a little bit more than the what we call Express product that we now offer. But Express does come with a little bit less functionality, but it's a little bit cheaper. So, and we'll continue to evaluate as we go on to make sure we're aligned correctly with the market. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah, there's been a lot of work that's went into it over the last 2 years.
Great. Okay, and I got one more question here, and then if anybody else would like to chime in on chat, I guess we can wrap up after this. So this question is about, who do you pick on staff to kind of staff the moderation function. And I'm interested, and I'll expand the question a little bit because we're in the process of deploying your platform for our SALA members. How do you stimulate conversation? How do you get engagement going on the platform? And who among your staff members should you be looking to assign that responsibility to?
Yeah, for our smaller organizations, we typically, the answer is it's a delegation of duties is what we typically recommend. Now, some large organizations might have a director of community, but if we had to sort of rank them in sort of a hierarchy, some type of membership person or communications person would be who we typically would recommend, and then sort of delegate those duties and responsibilities. When it comes to moderation, we have, as you probably know, we have different moderation settings. A community can be in full moderation, where everything that gets posted has to go through a moderation queue and get approved. We don't recommend that, because, to your other point, because that can inhibit engagement, right? We want to facilitate and encourage engagement, and the longer it takes, the more manual process that goes into it, it can act as a hindrance. But you have the right to do it. What we recommend is that, and it is a work in progress for the community to sort of start to evolve to there, but where it breeds its own moderation, where the members are the ones responsible for that moderation. You do have the ability to give them the right to flag something. You can moderate certain communities. Let's say you, for whatever reason, the technology committee has been acting unruly. I want that committee to be on full moderation. We approve everything, but every other community we have is open, and when something gets flagged, we'll address it one-off. So what a best practice would be, utilize some type of cadence, and whether that's daily, weekly, depending on the type of activity going on, and you'll start to understand what your members are doing, and have someone go in there and check it, because there's a moderation queue where you can go approve different things that have been flagged. Also with that, we don't see a ton of issues on that front. If you've ever participated in an online forum where there's a pseudonym, you've probably noticed that there are some unruly actors and behaviors. This is not Association Guy 72. This is Clint posting on my own professional relationship reputation, and I want to maintain these relationships. So you don't tend to see a lot of bad behavior, but it does happen from time to time. So that's the answer to the moderation question. But again, have the queue, have cyclifications, and share those responsibilities based on, I guess, the staff bandwidth that you have. But you typically don't see a lot of issues. As far as getting the community launched and active, we will work with you to launch what we call seed questions. So those are meant to act as a way to facilitate early engagement. Maybe they are some controversial issues or polarizing issues that would typically facilitate some responses. It's a great way to sort of act as a catalyst. You could also, what was I going to say? I just had it. There's another best practice. So we look at our historical clients and we see, okay, what's worked for them? This organization is like you. At this point, we have almost 3,000 clients, association clients. We can look at very niche organizations. Like today, I was looking at how many radiology clients we have, specifically focused associations that are only about radiology. And they're all basically smaller organizations. I think we have like 6 of those. So we can go look and, okay, what did these very unique niche radiology communities do that worked or maybe didn't work? And let's leverage those best practices. And then finally, as you're going through your launch, get your best members to act as beta testers to tell you what they like, what they don't like, to see, no, I don't think this is a good user experience, or yeah, I can see my peers engaging in this. And then just the technology itself facilitates that. So you've probably have seen it where it's the reply by email. So you don't even have to log in to the community to actually participate in these conversations. It can all be done via email, similar to a listserv functionality, but you can also procure resource documentations to one of the questions. I can add a the most recent board meeting notes right to the email into the board resource library without ever having to log into the community. So making it easier for folks to engage and participate sort of naturally facilitates that engagement when you combine that with all the best practices around seed questions, getting those beta testers, and then leveraging the best practices for our clients historically.
All right. Well, this was great stuff. So thank you to Clint and all the folks at Higher Logic for a great presentation today. I'd like to also thank all of you who joined us. I hope you found it as informative as I know we did. SALA is proud to put on these webinars for the community, and I would encourage you all to visit our website, check out future webinars and benefits, and learn more about membership for those of you who are not yet members. Thanks again to all of you, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks, Clint.
Yep. Thanks, everyone. Take care.